Welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to look at an old tool. This is a 3/8 drill that is cordless from the 90s. I would guess this is probably mid-90s, maybe 1995 or so. Got it super cheap. It's somebody else's tool at one point. They got some engraving on it there. But these old tools are actually pretty decent, believe it or not. It's not because of the NiCad tools. The NiCad batteries, I should say. What we actually did was we made ourselves an adapter to put an M14 battery on, like that. Just like so, we got ourselves a battery drill. So the nice thing about the M14s is they have a battery indicator on them, and it's a little easier than the M12s if you're using these lower voltage tools. Now this is a 12 volt tool originally, so 14 isn't going to really hurt nothing. So let's take a look at this thing. One thing is the selector switch is actually broken. There should be a little tang on there for your finger. It's not working, and we're going to run it here. Hopefully you can hear this. It seems to not, seems to be something wrong with the trigger. We'll run it the other direction. Full bore seems to work properly, but the in-betweens, it seems to jump up and then kind of die down. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and replace this trigger with a new old stock one that we got, and see if we can get this thing running better. So here we go, we got our new trigger, and you can see the way they were made back in the 90s, kind of different than they are now. Here's the little finger tab that's broken off the other one, and there's really no bellows to speak of on this here, but it's, you can see the battery mounts directly on it, and it's rated 25 amp 12 volt DC. Here's some wire connections, and this is indeed new old stock. I'm hoping it's the right one for the drill. You can see they got a little bit of a heat sink here going, so that would be sitting in the tool just like this. So if you ever used these things and you felt this area getting warm, that's the heat sink. So you can see here what that should look like inside. We're going to find out. So here we go. We have our trusty T10 there, and here's our cover. You see there's some shmoo flung up there. Nothing overly bad. And really this thing doesn't look like it's had a lot of time on it. If you take a look, I mean, there's some wear on the comb here, but the brushes have a lot of life left in them. And the comb doesn't look all that bad at all. So I do think that this thing, maybe somebody dropped it or something and broke this thing, but honestly, this thing looks pretty nice. So here we go. Those are soldered on. Kind of thought it might be. You can see this is dated 10 of 95. So that puts this thing right in the mid-90s, as we thought. So what this will do is give us a chance to get out our cordless Milwaukee soldering iron, which we will do a video on at some point. In fact, we have two versions that we're going to compare. And should probably take a picture of this so that you know blue, black. then you know what you're doing. So while these have been on here for a long time, we should be able to get some heat in this and get it to come out. Hopefully I can hold on to it here with my fingers. There we go. There's the blue one. Now you don't want to heat these too much because you can mess them up. There's the black one. There's our old switch. From 10 of 95. Still sort of works, but we're going to see if this new one works better. I didn't really like how the speed was kind of herky-jerky. So now, what we should be able to do is this is already tinned. I don't know if I can get that up in there or not. Might have to try and get that a little bit thinner. We'll be right back. I gotta put the soldering iron down. So all I'm really doing here, you can see I got the black one in already. So I'm just taking the soldering iron and I'm just trying to collect the solder off of here. You can use a wick, but you can also generally take the soldering iron and collect the solder on the tip. I'm sure some guys would scream and yell and say that's an abomination, a horrible thing to do, but you can generally flick it off then. So let me see if I can get this thing in there. And all we got to do is try and come up through here just like that. So there we go. We got both of them up in. Now what we should be able to do is take some solder. Yeah, that's some old stuff, right? And we should be able to sit here. We want to heat the wire mostly. Get heat in the wire. Get that somewhat ready to go. Try and keep the heat out of the switch. Get a little flux in it. This is flux core wire. You want to get just enough heat on that switch that you get a good thermal transfer. Get a nice little puddle like that. We'll let that cool just to like it at. And then we'll do the same thing with this one. Get it warm. Just get a little solder in there. You don't need to go overboard. Make sure it's wicked in. And there we go. Nice joint. So far I really like this soldering iron. The M12 soldering iron is great for some stuff, but when you want a pen, you want a pen. But when you want cordless, you want cordless. So now that we got that soldered on there, what we should be able to do is take this, put it in its little cradle. You can see it's got the molding here set up for it. Goes in just like it's made for there. You can see the wire is supposed to be in there like that. Get that down in. And then this one. just like that. So that's a level of detail that you don't really see anymore, is they give you somewhere to put your wires. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but there's a nice area here to cram your wires in and keep them all nice. So here's our motor. You can take a look in the end of that. I'm not going to pull this all apart unless we have some further issues. But you can see it's a decent rotor. Metal core here. Plastic on the outside. Metal gearbox. They just don't make tools quite like this anymore. Here's our clamshell. Let's see how that goes back together. Goes back together like it's made for it. Let's get some screws in. So a little trick when you're putting together things that are plastic. These screws will cut threads in plastic, and you don't always get them started the right way. So a good trick is to actually run them backwards, and you'll hear here, I'll push down on it. Hear that little pop? That's the threads setting into the original threads. And then this will thread together much easier because you're not cutting new threads. And that's a good thing because you're not breaking away more plastic. When you take stuff that's plastic like this apart, here we'll do it again. There, you heard it. When you take stuff like this that's plastic apart, you don't want to be stripping the plastic out. So this is a good way to not strip your plastic out, is to back the screws up until you feel it set down into that thread. And then you know you got it lined up, and it'll go back together a lot easier. Okay, so now that we got her back together, that seems like it's going to work. We got the direction control now. See that? So now let's get our battery back on. Got our battery on. Let's give her a run. So you should be able to hear the difference. It's a nice control on that. So, I mean, these old tools, and this was a thing that way back when with these Milwaukee tools, the variable speed was always better on Milwaukee tools than the other tools, and you can just hear how much control you have there. And you can also have at it pretty good too, obviously. But there's a sign of your switch starting to go bad. Not only was this one broken, you saw that the variable speed was really jumpy with it. So there's something going wrong here. It probably was overheated at one point or another. It's not my tool from new, so I don't know how somebody treated it. We just went on the assumption that we could probably fix this thing, and it looks like we have. So that's always a good thing. Nice to get something back from the dead. You're going to see this thing in videos probably, because I actually like these old tools. They're really robust, and honestly, you put these new lithium batteries on them, they rock pretty good. So now that we got our new trigger on this thing and she's running good, one last thing that we want to do, and that is, if you look at this, you can see somebody kind of did that thing that people do with the chuck. So what we'll do is we're going to take this chuck off, and we got a new chuck for it. It's a Jacobs hand tight chuck. I don't think this is really a top of the line chuck in its day, but it is what it had, so I got another one just like it, and we'll see how it goes. So inside of these, see if you can see that, there's an Allen cap screw. Now they aren't righty tighty, lefty loosey. They are lefty lighty, righty tight. You get the idea. So what we want to do is we want to go to the right to loosen. Righty loosey, lefty lighty, tighty, whatever. So got our impact gun here. It's a 1/8 inch impact, or I should say an 1/8 inch Allen. So we're just going to get right on down the gullet here. Get our chuck all the way open. See if I can get any of this on camera. Close enough. Oh, that one came out easy. Okay, so that's out. And we can see, if we look at that, that is indeed reverse thread. You can see the spirals are going the opposite direction of a normal fastener. Let's get another fastener here. We can see the two together. There you go. You can see they're a little bit different. So that's your fastener fun. That's reverse thread. Now the chuck itself is the normal threads, which is righty tighty, lefty loosey. So all we're going to do is we're going to tighten the chuck up on the Allen part of the wrench here. Just like that, we're chucked up. And now we can go in reverse. And we spin that right off the shaft. So now when you look at the shaft, you can see there's a thread inside and a thread outside. So when you order chucks, you order them by this thread inside, or if they are Jacobs taper, you want to order them by the Jacobs taper that they are. Jacobs taper chucks generally, I don't think I've ever seen one that had a set screw in it like this. So we're going to reuse that screw, but we are going to put in a brand new Jacobs chuck. Okay, so we got our two chucks out here. We're just comparing them. You can see the manufacturing's a little bit different. This one's made in good old USA, and this one's made in your typical place of making things now. And they're the same, but they're different. The knurling isn't quite as aggressive on the new one. It's still there. But the manufacturing practice is similar. You can see this one doesn't have the raised bit that this one has here. I don't think that's going to be a problem for our installation here. The jaws are a little bit different. We'll get them out in a second here. But to just touch on the thread, this is a 3/8 24 thread. It's very important when you go to get one of these. And then you also want to make sure you can see through it, because your set screw is going to need to go down inside, and the set screw goes inside of that other part. So let's compare our jaws. So actually the newer jaws are a little bit more beefy than the older ones. Now the older ones look like they used to close to 0 and they're worn out, whereas this newer one, that one does not close to 0. So that's a little bit of a bummer. I don't know if it says here what it closes to. Probably 1/8 inch or something like that. I shouldn't say 1/8, probably 1/16 or whatever. But that's kind of sucks, but I may look to see if I can find a new old stock USA made one, and then we'll swap it out again. But this one, it didn't seem like the bits were running perfectly good. Something's messed up with it. so I got another one so we can keep the drill in service. So changing it out here is nice and easy. Just take your threads. Let's get this thing open. Take your threads, thread it on down. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just give it one hit with the impact gun. Not that we kill it, but that we just give it a little bit of a set. Just like that. That's all we're going to do. Just to give it a little bit of a hit. So now it's not quite as easy to knock loose. And then we put our set screw in. You can see the head in there. And all we got to do is run that to the left. And I'm going to do the same thing here. We're just going to give it a hit. Not go crazy, because it'll hold. So I just noticed another difference. This old chuck is just your friction set chuck. You can see that's all it is you just turn it and it's friction. This new one, you can hear it. It actually has the ratcheting mechanism in it. So theoretically, that shouldn't work loose as easy as maybe this would. I'm not sure. I didn't have any issues with this coming loose. It just seemed like it wasn't, like I said, it seemed like somebody goofed it up. So, and I've never had issues with this style before coming loose, but anyway, there's the new and the old as I throw it across the shop. There's the new and the old. This thing's good to go. Got a new chuck on it, and ready for another 30 years. Anyway, hope this was interesting. We fixed up the switch, changed out the chuck, and brought back this old 12-volt NiCad tool with a little bit of a goofy adapter. So anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Okay, so we've made it to the slideshow segment of our video here, and we've got our old drill with our M14 conversion, showing the part number here for our new trigger. It's nice, that worked out. You can see here the heat sink and all that. Here's the old trigger and the new trigger, parts matching. There's our soldering iron that we used. Video coming up on that soon. There's the new trigger installed. The drill reassembled with the battery adapter on. Here's our new trigger in the casement. Here's the drill with its big brother, the 1/2-inch version. Here's the chuck that we got, if you want to take a look at that. Here's the motor shaft and the set screw. The two chucks next to each other. The new chuck installed. And that's been working out pretty good. You can see that it is a little different than the old one, but it actually hasn't been bad. One thing I do like is that the jaws are a little bit more beefy on the new one. There's our battery adapter. That has been working very well. It's nice to have the ability to check the charge. Our drill, and we'll leave you on the drill itself. It's been working good. We'll see it in some more videos coming up, and I hope you enjoyed this. It was a fun little fix-up project in the shop, and look forward to using this thing for a long time to come. So thanks again for watching. Hope you had a great day.